If you want that inspirational, then turn your radios. Sit back, relax, catch the vibe, have fun tonight on the Four Corner Show. You gotta sit back, relax, catch the vibe, have fun tonight on the Four Corner Show. If you want that grown and inspirational, then turn your radio to the Four Corner Show. Hot and spicy topics, come enjoy the show. So let's get personal on the Four Corner Show. Relax, catch the vibe, have fun tonight on the Four Corner Show. You gotta sit back, relax, catch the vibe, have fun tonight on the Four Corner Show. If you want that inspirational, then turn your radios.
Okay, turn your radios. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Four Corners with Pepper Thomas, along with my co-host, Mark A. Walker. Hey, Mark A. Walker.
Hey, Pepper Thomas.
Oh, so I say your whole name and you say my whole name.
Pepper.
Okay.
Pepper.
Yes. Okay, I'll take that. I'll take that. Hey, Mark A. Walker. Hey, Mr. Michael Upshaw. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Pepper
That's
Thomas.
Good. Oh, so you say my whole name and he says my first name. I'm like, okay, I don't know. So how was the weekend? How was the weekend for you guys? I know
It was great. It was great. You know,
it was great.
Great.
Absolutely.
Good weekend.
Did you put a dent in what's happening in the world? Are they going to say on this date, Mark and Michael did something special or?
Not this week. Not this last weekend. No, I went to church and played at church. It's a long week. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my service for me as well.
Yeah,
Two services, 6:45 a.m., 9:45 a.m.
Ate a couple of chicken wings.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. How about
I had to ask about the chicken wing. Is that a chicken? Yeah, I think so.
And one lamb chop, just one lamb chop. That's all.
Yeah.
So I want to welcome everyone here. We thank you for joining us. We are here it's not every, but it's twice a month. Of course, it's called like the pop-up show. You never know when we're going to, be on. But yeah, we do this twice a month and it's Four Corners. Please subscribe to the channel. It is free.
It is free.
FREE. We love free. You like free?
Free.
Oh, yeah.
Love free.
Everything free ain't always the best, right?
That's right.
But this is the best.
This is the best.
All right.
I like that segue. It's the best. So I want to introduce our guest for today.
Please do.
He got these fingers, right? I want to see these fingers. Like I really want to know how he got the name of the finger thing. I don't know. Maybe he cooks. No, we don't have chefs on here, do we? No, we have musicians. I'm sorry. Yes. Okay. So I would like to introduce none other than Mr. Damon Dizzy Fizzy Fingers Bennett.
What it is? How y'all are?
How you doing, sir?
We are fine.
The great
Thank
one.
you so much for coming on. We have been waiting for you, and I'll ask that question later on about those fingers because I want to know how you get to name the fingers. But yes, we are happy to have you here, and you are an icon in the industry. Like your name is everywhere.
It's been a place or two. It's a blessing.
Good.
It's a blessing that I don't take for granted.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Which is a good thing. Yeah, keeps you humble.
Yep, man.
Yeah. Well, Mark, hey, go for it.
Mr. Damon Bennett, you have an incredible career. You work with a lot of people. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I am. Give us a brief scenario. I know you play for a lot, but give us a brief scenario of the people you work with, the people you toured with, whether it be recording or production in the studio. Give us a little bit, and give us a little background about yourself first as well.
All right. From we can take it from the top with the 5, 6, 7, 8s, right? So I started off playing flute back when I was in elementary school. At some point, I started playing saxophone and and keys and stuff like that. I think I wrote my first song when I was in 5th or 6th grade, and being in Philadelphia at the time, it was just sheer luck or a blessing that a lot of the cats who are kind of movers and shakers in the industry now from Philly, we just kind of came up together. So after high school, instead of going to like college or whatever, I went in the Army. I was in an Army band and that kind of furthered my keyboard skills and inadvertently started me on my path to being a producer. I get back to Philly and think that I was going to be like the Wynton Marsalis on flute. And at the time, nobody really wanted to hear a flute player. So it kind of forced me to really dig into the keyboard and dig into production and so on and so on. And at some point, I started to reach out to some folk that I knew in the industry from Philadelphia, and they started giving me some opportunities. So I was in recording sessions with people like Timbaland, which had me on Justin Timberlake's first record, and I think on one of Christina Aguilera's albums. I've worked with people like King Britt, Lady Alma, Maysa, Kindred the Family Soul, Jaguar, Jill Scott, Jay-Z, and a bunch of people that you know how it is when you put people on the spot, you can't think of nothing all of a sudden. Yeah, but that's a short list.
Well, okay. Your short list really ain't short, but okay, we'll we'll take your word for it. Yeah. But tell me this: while you were working with these people, and I mean, I know a lot of times people, when they hear your story, they're trying to figure it out. Sometimes they want to know your mindset. Where were you? I know you were excited, but where were you? I mean, mentally, when you got the call to do a Maysa or Jill Scott or Jay-Z, when you were in the studio, did you feel like you were supposed to be there? Do you feel like this was, God allowed you to be there, or this was guess? Or I mean, give us a little scenario on that. How you was feeling? What was going on? How did you feel?
I am. To answer that question first, let me take it back to high school. I'm a product of a gentleman who recently passed, George Allen. All right, George Allen was an amazing educator. Not just in Philadelphia, but literally, in the U.S. And his philosophy was, if you were well prepared, there's no reason for you to believe that you don't belong there, and there's no reason for you to be nervous. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So resting on the skill set that I acquired from like 100,000 million trillion hours of practice, you know what I mean, and so on and so on, and also being able to envision myself in those kinds of situations, I felt right at home, and no pressure or anything like that. And also the thing that a lot of people don't realize, it doesn't make a difference what your job title is. It doesn't make a difference how much money you make or how many people know you because of your job. You're a human being. You know what I mean? So it doesn't make a difference if I'm sitting in the room with somebody who's like a next door neighbor who's just like, who barely won a karaoke contest, or somebody like a Barbra Streisand. We're all human beings, and we all pretty much have the, we have the same goals and aspirations and all of that kind of stuff. We're all just humans.
Okay. I think that's fair. Okay. And I got to ask you this because you took it there. Your mindset when you're creating, because you work with so many different genres and different styles of people. Of course, there's different personalities,
right?
To deal with when you are producing or writing for someone. Because I know you're in the production, you write and you do a lot of things.
Right.
What is your inspiration? What do you use to inspire yourself? Is there anything that you listen to or read, or what is your go-to when you want
a little bit of everything? Yeah, really a little bit of everything. A lot of times I don't know exactly what it is I'm going to wind up working on, and I've worked on a bunch of different stuff. Like for example, for a while I was actually pretty involved in the theater community in Philadelphia, as a performer and actually as a composer. Oh. And so I've written everything from like ragtimes, classical kinds of stuff, country. You know what I mean? Like, so it's just really whatever the project kind of depends on. So I have to listen to at least a little bit of everything, and I don't have the luxury of saying, well, I don't like this and I don't like that. You know what I mean? You have to keep to be a composer, to be a producer. The best case scenario is that you be in a situation where you turn down the gig because you're too busy, and not because you don't necessarily like that kind of music or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any songs that's close to your heart that's a part of your life? Like you can write a song, or you hear some artists will collab with someone and you're able to put part of your life or story in it. Is there anything that's really special to you? Not necessarily the best song, but it's just something just special to you personally. Is there any songs?
Yeah, actually, there's a artist from Philadelphia named Rhonda Rise who I did a couple of songs with her. I think probably going back to 2016, but there's one in particular that she did that's called This Ain't Love. And it's actually it's a story of domestic violence and domestic abuse, right? Nothing that she or I have ever gone through ourselves, but it's just, tells an important story. But the thing that makes this particular thing different, Rhonda is like a quintuple threat. She does a little bit of everything, but she does poetry. And she was on the local poetry scene performing this with somebody. Like, she just called somebody from the audience to do the beatbox for her. You know what I mean? And eventually, so that's pretty much what it was. So eventually she wanted to add music to it. And I just didn't think that it felt right with music. So I wound up literally beatboxing on this thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, so the way I actually beatboxed was, I kind of made myself like a drum set, so I had, like the kick drum, I recorded separate, snare drum, I recorded separate, so on, and then kind of mixed it together like that. But it's so that right there for a few different reasons. First of all, because Rhonda is not really a known person like that, but she's extremely talented. I really just love that story. And like I said, even though neither one of us have kind of gone through those, we've known people who have, and we just thought that was going to be a really powerful message, especially for it to be delivered that way.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And her name is Rhonda Rise, R-I-S-E?
Rhonda Rise. Okay. Say again?
Rhonda Rise, R-I-S-E?
Z-E, R-I-Z-E. R-A-H-N-D-A, R-I-Z-E.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to have to keep a lookout, listen out for her, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So, the question of the fingers. Where Dizzy come from? You thought I was going to forget. Let me get it in now. Like, where does Dizzy come from? Like, were you always dizzy? Like, all over every now and then? What's up?
So, late 90s, early 2000s, I was working a lot with Freedom Theater. For the people who don't know, Freedom Theater was like one of the oldest Black theater companies in America. And so at the time, the late Walter Dallas was the artistic director, and every year he was doing he wrote and directed a Black History show. And it was something that we traveled, you know what I mean? So we were literally going all over the state or tri-state area doing this thing. So this particular year, he asked me to kind of help him out with this one musically, because this one he called The Rhythms of History, and it's like how the rhythms of the past affect the present, and you know what I mean, and how that takes us to our future and whatnot. So I found some musical ways to thread, like I went and studied a bunch of African rhythms and found that there were certain rhythms that even though they're ancient, we were still using them, like the dance hall, like, you know what I mean, and the Charleston, you know what I mean, like those rhythms were literally coming from Africa. So I was finding ways to deal, to thread that throughout the music in this particular piece. And then at one point, Walter threw a curveball. He threw a curveball and said, "We don't have any ragtime in this thing, right? We have to do a piece on Scott Joplin." And for me, I wasn't just a composer, but as a performer in the thing, I'm, on the keyboards in the background and so on and so on. So he was like, "So this would be for the first time we're doing this thing, this is where the actual musician is going to get his shine." You know what I mean? So we're gonna, you're Scott Joplin. So the problem is, I'm not classically trained piano. I literally just kind of taught myself playing, and had some other people kind of helping me out, showing me some things, but I've never taken a piano lesson and so on and so on. Right. And and I just did not have the skill set to do that. Ragtime is not necessarily the simplest form of music. And so after about a week or so, like, I'm listening to different records, and because I'm not like a classically trained piano player, I don't read piano music. I'm a flute player, so I'm looking at this stuff like one line at a time and trying to reconstruct and so on and so on, right? So of course the first rehearsal or so, I'm sitting there like clonk clonk, clink clink, and Walter's sitting there looking at me like I don't, you know what I mean? But by the time the first show, I got this. As a matter of fact, it was the Maple Leaf Rag, right? So by the first show, I'm like, okay, it's cool. I had to play it a little slower, like you know. By maybe the second week, I'm like, you know what I'm saying, like whatever. So we did that whole run. At the end of the run, there's a cast party, and the guy who was the stage manager for that production, his name is Chris Whelan. Chris Whelan was giving out gifts to everybody, and he was explaining exactly why he was giving people, everybody this specific gift. So when he comes to me, he gives me a record. It's a Percy Faith record, and the name of the song is Mr. Dizzy Fingers. Right?
Wow.
And so he looked at me and said, "No explanation needed."
Wow.
Wow.
What a story.
I love it.
I guess basically you earned that name, huh?
Especially if you actually looked at my fingers when I was playing, because once again, I, without taking, you're supposed to have your fingers on certain keys when you're playing certain notes, I don't know none of that. I was just playing. So I know, I'm surprised he didn't call my fingers like,
Wow.
Don't make no sense fingers.
Pepper, if I may ask him this last question. I know you want to play a song or something.
I sure do. I was about to go to it. I was like,
Damon, is there any music of yourself that you're working on? Is there anything that features you that you've done or that you're working on? Is there something that we should be looking for or look at, or what's
Absolutely. Hopefully I'll be dropping a single this year. For the last several years I've been working on a solo project. This, and I'm about to get very sentimental and whatnot. I lost my mother in 2017, right?
Oh, I'm sorry.
2016, it was one of those situations where she knew, but she didn't, so what my mother was doing for almost the entire year of 2016 was her closure, you know what I mean? Which, so when a mother is telling you stuff like, make all your dreams come true, don't wait for any, it's like, it's mother talk, you know what I mean? You don't think anything of it until, afterwards, you're kind of using your hindsight 2020. So with that in mind, something crazy happened. All right. So I decided that I wanted to start working on a project, and I had a completely different concept for this thing. And so anyway, my mother passed in January of 2017, right? So her, she had a really massive stroke that had her catatonic, and her wishes was, let me go. So they put her in ICU. The ICU, the room number was 1270, right? But when it turned midnight, it was her birthday, right? So the significance of that was 1270 is my birth year in my birth month. So my mother spent her last birthday in room 1270, right? So it's like message. So at that point, I was like, my whole project is gonna have to change. And so it's mostly an instrumental a project centered around me playing flute, centered around me playing keys. A lot of the songs are like they're like my life story, between dedicating it to people who are important to me and my family, friends, any people who've had inspiration, who's given me inspiration. And I've also had the opportunity to work with a couple of artists who inspired me too. So I have Najee on one song, I have Frank Home on one, I have Hill Street Soul, and Lady Alma is going to be recording a song with me, and I have Maysa on the track as well. So look out for this. So hopefully I'll be able to drop a single this year. The problem is I literally recorded about 60 something songs whittled it down to about 25. And you know what I mean? So trying to get the 25 down to about 12, and then that 12 to like, man, what's the single going to be? Because and most of it is really, really good. And the stuff that isn't really, really good is really good.
Really, really good. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So your catalog is massive. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool. So, okay, so I'm about to play this song, right?
Okay.
It's one of my favorites. And when I heard that you had something to do with it, I was like, what? You wondering what it is, huh?
I think is about to find out.
Is.
I'm sorry. I meant to say am about to find out.
So it's one of my favorites.
All right.
You did the doggone thing on this song. I have a radio show and I play this song every chance I get. You like, I know what it is. Okay, y'all. He's behind this song. He produced this song for this group, a husband and wife. Oh. And they had two people featured on this song.
Oh, I know. But
okay, you ready?
You talk about going to the go-go?
This is a legendary DJ Cool.
Yep.
You got 5 seconds to get to the dance floor. Let's go.
Jam.
If you can't rock, then here's the jam. Raise your hands down. Raise your hands up. It's time to celebrate. It's time to dance. If you ain't come to jam, it's
Ladies and gentlemen, we got Chuck Browne in the house tonight. Hey, yo, Chuck. Y'all feel all right? Do you feel all right?
Chuck Browne.
Y'all happy tonight? Tell me how you happy tonight. Do you want to go home? You don't want to go home, do you? I said, do you want to go home? Let's get it on. How you feel? I see you working like it's on a grill. You got it hot, smoking like a grill. I don't want to see nobody standing still. No fun when you're on the run. Take a little time and love someone. Hard to have fun being second to none. Party all night till the morning, girl. If you like to go. If you like to dance, come on, girl. Just lean back there. Come on now. Now, if you come to party, then you're welcome to stay. Excuse me while I play. What's it now? Get down, Chuck. Yeah, that's right, man. Lean back, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Come on, party people, don't you blow this jam. Cause I just want to see y'all dance. Time to dance. Raise them hands up. Raise them hands up. Raise your hands up. Raise your hands up. Raise your hands up. Come on. Come on. Come on. We headed down 95 on a 2-hour drive.
Yes, tonight we live.
And the party always jumped in the DMV.
Next time we in town, why don't you come see?
Got the local gunpowder, Chuck Browne. Get down, with us now. So listen to how that sound. I turn around and you feel the flow. Do you remember how excited you was at the first go-go? You like go. You like to dance. Nobody. If you came to party, then you're welcome to stay. Excuse us while we play. Come on, work it up.
And if you come to party with me, y'all let me know. Hands up, come on, if you're feeling the track. And if you come to party, put a hump in your foot. Hands up, if you're ready to go. Yeah. And if you come to party with me, y'all let me know. Hands up, if you're feeling the track. And And if you come to party, put a hump in your butt. Everybody now, everybody now, everybody raise them up, raise it up, raise it up, raise it up, raise it up, raise them up, raise it up, yeah, raise it up. Go, 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 DC, go, 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 go. I know the boys, stop and see what's up. Check out.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
What comes from that memory? Wow, that's incredible.
Not just a memory. One of the things, and I think me and Mike talked about this at some point, like recently, that one of the things about being in entertainment that's different than a lot of jobs is, first of all, you know, there are not a lot of jobs that I can think of where you kind of idolize somebody who does their job. Like, you know, like, oh man, so-and-so's the baddest carpenter, whatever. So I grew up in the liner notes era. So I'm looking at these records and stuff like that, and I'm saying so-and-so played on this record and blah, 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 all that stuff, right? And at some point, I become an adult, I become a professional musician, and I start meeting these people or start working with these people and so on and so on. And it's surreal. So I literally remember listening to WDAS back in 19, right? You know what I mean? And hearing Chuck Brown, you know what I'm saying? And just like, whoa, you know what I mean? And always loved this cat's music, and not just like the stuff that you hear on the, you know, some of these recordings. Like his live show was crazy. You know how he incorporated like jazz and blues tunes with the go-go feel and whatnot. You know what I mean? And sometimes even mixing like it's like a jazz tune with the go-go beat, but he might throw a bebop horn line on top of it, like, you know what I mean? So he was always like one of those cats that is like, yo, this dude is so amazing. So it was surreal. Like that actually was, I want to say, if it wasn't the last, it was one of the last songs that wound up on Kindred's that album. I think that was Love Has No Recession, right? And so I talked to Fatine, and you know, it's like, look, I think I got a track for you.
Okay, so
he froze.
I think he froze. So you may need to go to another song.
Yeah.
So I'm going through all the stuff that I have.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah. So anyway, so I'm going through all the stuff that I have, and I'm like, yeah, this is cool. And then it hit me, like, Asia is from DC, right? And I'm like, they've never done a go-go tune. Like, what the heck is that about? And once again, I do a little bit of everything, and kind of had I had like bits and pieces of literally 3 different go-go tracks that I kind of put together to make that one, give it to Fatine, and he was like, yo, this is cool. But I think Fatine said that because they're not known for doing go-go, he thought it would be a good look to try to get somebody that was actually in that community. And I think he tried to reach out to like EU or something like that. But then one, he called me and was like, yo, what do you think about Chuck Brown? Like, heck yeah. Then he reached out to Chuck, and Chuck said he loved the track. So the fact that Chuck Brown said that he loved the track, you couldn't tell me nothing. You couldn't even ask me what time it was. Like, you be like, yo, dang, what time is it? I'd have told you, man, Chuck Brown loved my track. Yeah, and then, you know, and then have Cool, who was like one of the partyingest cats that you would ever want to meet. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that was important to a very important moment for me, just on the fact that Chuck, you know, like, yo, I don't rock something with Chuck Brown. And then what made it even better, right? We had a performance at the Birchmere where Chuck came and performed with us also.
Oh,
wow.
You know, so not only did I get a chance to co-write and produce something that he was involved, but got a chance to actually rock live with him too. And just one other note, they gave him like this is how powerful Chuck is, especially in the DMV area, right?
Mm-hmm.
He got a 5-minute standing ovation just because Fateen said his name on the mic.
Wow.
You know what I mean? It's
That
like,
sounds about
we got
right.
Chuck Browne in the house, and then for 5 minutes, like he didn't even walk out the back yet. You know what I mean? Yeah, amazing. Yep.
Yeah.
I noticed that you had mentioned earlier about playing ragtime, and I know back in the I guess the 90s or whatever, I had the opportunity to be a part of a show about a gentleman, a fabulous composer from New Orleans, Buddy Bolden.
Right.
Yeah, and it's a lot of stride piano. I mean, phenomenal story. And I listened to a lot of those liner notes. Just like you had mentioned. Those things, we don't have those anymore.
Right.
So some of my favorite pianists are like Oscar Peterson and Art Tatum, Earl Gardner and Art Silver, and the list goes on. And Monty Alexander. Who were some of your favorite pianists?
Well, pretty much everybody that you said. I'm gonna name some names that you all heard of. Herbie, Chick Corea, Joe Sample, definitely. But I'm gonna name some cats that you probably probably never heard of. Jamar Jones. Jamar Jones is from Philly. When I first met him, he was actually music director in Music Soul Child. And currently we've been playing together with Jill Scott. We did tour in 2020 and last year's tour. And Jamar, I told him a couple of times, like, you are me if I actually ever took piano lessons. You know what I mean? He and I are similar in a lot of different ways, but just him being one of those guys that can literally do everything and so on and so on. But he is one of those guys that, like, if he wasn't born in like 1975, but he was born in 1935 or 45, he would literally be a jazz giant. You know what I mean?
Wow.
But but Jamar Jones, there's unfortunately another brother that passed away. His name's Terry Cash. Terry, I met Terry when I was in high school, and Terry is probably the person who's most responsible for me being a keyboard player. You know what I mean? Because I was playing flute and sax in his band, and he just he had two hands and needed a third hand on the keyboard. And he was like, "Oh, dang, play this." I'm like, okay. And for whatever reason, he just decided that he was going to make me a keyboard player. You know what I mean? And so he was doing certain things like, hey, like, learn this line in every key. And I'm like, I don't know how to play that. Don't worry about it. Nobody can hear what your fingers are doing on the keyboards. They can only hear the notes, right? Just figure it out. And but some of the things that he just showed me, really, like, in about 6 months, I wound up being an actual keyboard player from just from hanging with Terry. You know what I mean? So and then there's another couple of guys. This cat, another brother that passed a few years ago, Abdul, who's just a local musician and the funny thing is, he wasn't really a super great keyboard player, but he had incredible ears, and he was just one of those guys that always had great information. You know what I mean? And whatever he lacked in terms of the technical proficiency, like I said, his ears, and just like, he was one of those people that could hear the cracks in between the hi-hat and the snare. You know what I mean? And then, but not just that he could hear it. He was like, but if you play that little crack right there, you're going to bring out something and he would absolutely be right. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I mean, just generally speaking, in terms of my people who inspired me, it's always been a mixed bag of all of the legends and people like for example, Christian McBride, right? Christian McBride, we one of those cats that we came up together. We were like in jazz ensembles and stuff like that. And so hanging with him and sharing music, you know what I mean? And he would we would hang up. Remember, I don't know if you remember Third Street Jazz back in the day, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so we some like we had an ensemble at Settlement, and sometimes we would literally walk from Settlement downtown, and we just hang out in you know what I mean. And he'd be like, "Oh, you ever heard of this record? Like, you need to check this record out, or what? You know what I mean?" But or like that kind of stuff, and just when you around people that have a certain level of musicianship, it's like you cannot be slacking when you have to go to a rehearsal with these cats. You know what I mean? So people like him, Joey DeFrancesco, John Roberts. There's a brother, Antonio Parker, who funny thing, because Tony back in the day kind of looked like Tony Parker, right? I mean, he looked like Charlie Parker a little bit, but I think he's like a music professor or something like that somewhere in the DMV now. But there's a cat, Lewis Taylor, that plays sax. He's a few years older than I. Like when I was in elementary school, he was in high school. But I used to watch him and say, I need to figure out how to do that.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? Yeah. So like I said, it's always then and definitely one of the biggest influences that I had was a brother named Basil Frazier. His brother was one of my brother's best friends, and he, once again, when I first started playing flute when I was in 3rd grade, he was a flute player at Overbrook. You know what I mean? So my brother was like, "Yo, man, you need to come down here and hook up with my brother because he just making cat calls all day," right? You know what I'm saying? So when Basil saw me play for the first time, he was like, "Oh, you're actually pretty good. Now do this, do that, don't do this, so on and so on." So even though at that point I probably was playing 5 or 6 months, learning from him, it was like I was playing for a year and a half. You know what I mean? So so once again, it's like a lot of the people who were the biggest influences on me were people that you probably would never even heard of.
Yeah. And there's another phenomenal musician that I grew up listening to, and he would come by our home when I was a kid. A gentleman by the name of Gerald Price.
Okay.
Another phenomenal keyboard player, and he's speaking about Christian McBride. His father is a phenomenal bass player.
Yep.
And I found out. In fact, we did record a song together. But speaking of flute, you're on an iconic song that I had no idea that was you playing. I know you know what I'm talking about. There's a song my son and his buddies, they were trying to do their thing, recording. They had their studio set up. One of their favorite artists, his song back then was Jay-Z, Big Pimpin'.
I played with the Roots on Jay-Z's Unplugged, right? So I have like a million stories about the actual studio recording of because I got it when I was in high school. I got addicted to flutes, period. Like, you know what I mean? So so bamboo flutes, recorders, all of that kind of stuff. And so some of the people who know me, like I was in high school, I would be going downtown with like a bamboo flute, not necessarily even to be busking and making money. I just liked the way it sounded when I was outside. And so a lot of people were like, "Oh, that's that weird kid with the little wood flute," right? You know what I mean? So there are people who legit thought that I literally played flute on Jay-Z's the studio version of that, but I did not. That's a sample from a song from there's an Egyptian or was an Egyptian percussionist named Hassam Ramzi, and but that's where the sample from Big Pimpin' comes from. But I definitely played on the Unplugged concert, and MTV, they would chop bits and pieces of the concerts and they would make music videos out of the actual song. So I know they did release Big Pimpin', that Jay-Z and the Roots, Big Pimpin' on, from MTV Unplugged. So so for that reason alone, there are a lot of people that even more people think that I actually played on the studio version. But you know, so I got the next best thing. But the other thing about that too is like I took my love for weirdo flutes to the MTV Unplugged. And the fun fact is at when we got to the TRL studio to, you know, to rehearse and all of that, they kind of had me I was sitting in the corner by Kamal, who was on Rhodes in Oregon or something like that, right? And so one song I'm playing flute on, another song I think I might have played piccolo on, and something else I think I played recorder on. But I had this it's an African flute, and I can't remember exactly what the wood is, but it's like brown with black spots, right? And I played that on the takeover. So when I pulled that out, the guy who was actually directing the thing, he stopped and he came over to me and he was like, okay, no more. You need to sit right here. So he put me literally like a little off to the side and right behind Jay-Z, so that every time you got a full-on shot of Jay-Z, you could see me, because he was like, who the heck is playing wooden flutes on hip-hop songs? And, you know, and he just thought that was something that people really, really needed to see. So the other fun fact is on that video of the MTV's video of Big Pimpin', from the Unplugged, I'm playing a recorder. It's literally like a $2 plastic recorder. It's literally the same recorder that I had when we had recorder class in 7th grade. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Oh yeah, yep. So, you know, I had a bunch of people that I went to middle school with clowning me. Like, oh man, you got the Martha Hawk flute. Come on, man, quit playing.
Well, let's play something else that you contributed to. You're co-producer and writer of a song by Carl Cox.
Yeah.
You like, oh yeah. So this is let's play Elevation.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Good one.
You guys check it out. Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank
So,
you.
Mr. Dizzy, got a question.
Yeah.
Take me through the steps on becoming a producer, and what does that mean as a producer? What do you have to do as a producer?
Very interesting question. Because of hip hop in particular, a lot of people say the producer is the cat that make the beat, right? Because that's what they do. They make the beat, right? But a producer traditionally is the equivalent of a director for a TV show or a movie, right? So you don't necessarily have to be the person that does the music. You have to be the person that directs it. You have to be able to make the whole thing come together. So if you take someone like Quincy Jones, for example, right? He produced Michael Jackson. Didn't write, he's like, well, I'm going to marry Rod Temperton with Michael Jackson. I'm going to make sure that I get to make this particular song come alive. I have to get Louis Johnson to play on it, and I have to get these horn players, and we have to cut it at this studio, and so on and so on. And then so pretty much being the boss and the person who drives the creative direction of the whole thing. You know what I mean? So that's what the producer traditionally is. So when you're talking about people that are like the Sir George Martins, the Benny Medinas, and Arif Mardins and folk like that. For me, it's a little bit of both, because I do write and so on and so on, and for artists that I work with, I try my best to create something that's indicative of their musical identity or their musical personality, so that if you listen to it, so for example, what you heard from what I did with Kindred and Chuck Brown is completely different from what I did with Carl, which is going to be completely different from other artists, because everybody, it's like everybody eat chicken, but some people like it fried hard, some people want some hot sauce on it, whatever, you know what I mean? So you have to create these different flavors and these different identities for everyone else. If not, then literally what's going to wind up happening is that you'll have like 100 songs and they all sound exactly alike.
Right. So don't you think that being a producer also sheds light on you as a person, bringing people together, because people are going to want to work with you because of who you are, and it's easier for you to collaborate with people to get them on the same ticket? Don't you think so? Because I think if you were the type of person that they were like, I don't want to work with Dizzy, because Dizzy, I really want to be on the project, but don't you think it has to do with your personality and you as a human being that they want to work with you?
Yes, but in the proof in that pudding is that I have a lot of people who say to me, let me just work on it, we'll figure it out later. You know what I mean? Because the bottom line is there are a lot of people who they'll work with somebody that they hate if the price is right. You know what I mean? But when you can get someone who can work on a project for someone who doesn't really have any money, and they're saying, but because you're asking me to do it, I'm gonna do it, and don't even worry about the money. We'll just figure it out whatever, whenever. You know what I mean? So not just with music, but in life, there's, that's, you have to be able to manage and leverage relationships and so on and so on. And and it can't be one-sided. You know what I mean? It can't be one-sided. So for everyone who says, Dame, I got you, I got them too. You know what I mean? But the other thing too is that the quality of the work they do still has to be really high. You know what I mean? And one of the blessings, like for example on Elevation, there's an incredible guitarist. His name is Mike Ianari. This dude is bananas, right? Yeah. Wow. I'll say it again, bananas, right? Yeah, and and he's a friend of Carl's, right? And he actually plays with Carl live also, and he's an incredible guitarist. Great person, so on and so on. And Carl's like, oh man, I think I need some guitar on this track, man. Can I get my boy Mike on the cool? And Mike was like, oh, bet, I got you. You know what I mean? Yeah. And and it's one of those situations where if Carl was like, it's not quite right, so on and so on, he was like, well, let me do it again. And he would have done it again 15, 20 times to make it, because he has that kind of musical integrity also. You know what I mean? And that kind of stuff is definitely important, especially now in like the era of music that we're living in now is like we are more responsible for our own projects. It's, you know what I mean? It's, at one point you can kind of just throw an idea together on like a stenograph or something, like, you know what I mean? Like, and if you let the right person to it, they can say, oh, well, I know once we actually get some musicians and put a budget behind it, blah, 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 blah. Right. Now it's like cats don't know if it's a hit song until it already went viral. Right. You know what I'm saying? And, and these labels, they're not giving you budgets. It's a lot harder to you know what I mean? So it's up to us as the creatives to make sure that our stuff sounds as good as it can possibly be. Right. And so with that in mind, when you have friends that are available to you, that can come in on a crunch and be like, yo, I got you, and so on and so on. And most of the times they're not just doing that because they're your friends. It's like, well, I know this dude can actually have something that sounds good. Because when you put it out there, you have no idea what it's going to do. You know what I mean? You could have the best song in the world that doesn't sell a copy. Yeah. Or next thing you know, they can have your face plastered up on Billy Penn. You know what I mean? Like you just never know. So, but if they feel comfortable that you can put out a project or a song or whatever that's actually going to sound good, then it makes them more likely to say, hey, shoot, I'll be a part of it. Yeah.
So I was told this. You're like, I don't know what you're about to say. You are the musical director for Christopher Williams, correct?
Not quite. I was asked to put a band together and music direct a show that he was supposed to have been doing this past weekend. Okay. Yeah.
So let me ask you this, because I'm wondering about the 90s, since you came up in the 90s and the 90s music. What is it that you think that the 90s, as far as the vocalists that are still around, how do they still have it? How do you think they're able to have the longevity of the voice to be able to participate in the 2024s?
Well, this isn't something that's just for this is a general statement. And you're talking strictly on them being able to still kind of perform at the same level as they did 30 years ago, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Let me tell you something. First of all, if you're blessed with a certain amount of genetics, you know what I mean? That's a part of it, because your vocal cords are muscled like anything else, right? And if you think about it like being a basketball player, right? You know, you could have a 175-foot vertical, right? When you're 20. By the time you're 40, you ain't gonna be able to jump that high. Your muscles just do stuff. You know what I mean? So, you know, but if you're training and you're exercising properly and so on and so on, you know. So for those, so sometimes it's genetics. Sometimes you literally have some of these folk are pretty well trained. Like Kenny Lattimore is really well trained, right?
Yes.
So I you know, unless something catastrophic happens with Kenny Lattimore, he'll be 80 years old still singing his behind off. You know what I mean? And so, and if you're taking care of your instrument, you know what I mean? So you can't be running around here smoking everything. You can't be running around here drinking everything. You can't be running around here yelling and screaming and so on and so on. So yeah, so some of these guys, like but I'll tell you, in my opinion, who I think is like, just in terms of genetics over everything else, is that dude, what's his name? Little G?
Oh, from Silk.
Silk, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Let me tell you. Hold on, first. Child, let me tell you. Yo, I was in Chicago a few years ago with Kindred. They had a series that they were doing to Kindred. They were doing in Chicago, where they were inviting you know, special guests or whatever. And I think he just happened to be there hanging out. And he came up and just kind of jamming. And first of all, he could still, like, he literally can sing, but there were a couple of things that he was singing, like at full chest voice, that was so high and so loud. It's like, unless his vocal cords were really literally made out of Teflon or rubber or something like that, I'm like, he's just one of those people that's like, you cannot be human singing like that, especially singing like that all the time, because, like, he made my throat hurt. You know what I mean? But from what I understand, like, yeah, he does those kinds of stuff, those kinds of runs and stuff like that all the time. So for him, it's genetics. You know, genetics are, you know, there are certain people that are just built that kind of tough. Then you have other people that, like, if you blink at them the wrong way, then they have a sore throat and so on and so on. And I know a few artists that are vocalists that are like that, and they have to go through special links. So sometimes when you see it's 90 degrees outside and you see somebody with a mask on and a scarf, you know what I mean? It may not necessarily because they're sick. They literally just may be a vocalist that's trying to make sure that they're keeping their instrument maintained. Yeah.
Because you could say the same thing for if we're going to compare, let's say Natalie Cole compared to Whitney Houston, right? Natalie Cole used drugs. Natalie could still genetics, like she still had it. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes that's it. So I mean, if you're lucky enough to kind of figure out which one you are, then you can, you know. So but there are a lot of people who live fairly clean lives, but just through age and attrition, they just can't. You know, you have to lower the key for them a little bit or whatever, and that's that's normal, because once again, your muscles just don't do the same thing at 70 as they used to. And but with that in mind, there's still some incredible older vocalists out here that are killing, like, that they make me say, I'm glad I'm a flute player. I'm glad I ain't got to sing behind them. you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah, that's a very interesting question, though, because sometimes you just, when you look at, and not naming any names, because I know you can turn on YouTube and you can find some people, but you know what, also, it's, you know what, sometimes too, it's lack of activity that kind of kills you. You know what I mean? So when you look on YouTube and you see a video of somebody that you were like in love with vocally from like 1987 or whatever, and you say to yourself, man, I ain't heard from them in 30 years. And you see that video and it's like, man, they don't sound that great. It's probably because they haven't done a whole lot of singing either.
You haven't been practicing. You have to keep it going.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I have another song to play.
Uh-oh.
Oh! Oh!
Here we go.
Oh!
Here we go.
Oh! But before we do that, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to come on Four Corners and share your knowledge and your gift. And
I appreciate the invite.
You're welcome. And I would ask you to turn around and pick up that flute or that saxophone, but
what?
Where is it at?
You don't know who you talk. Hold up.
Okay, come on. Come on.
Here we go. Here we go.
Hello. I love a challenge. I love a challenge. Oh, come on.
Matter of fact, I'll do you one better.
Oh, what you gonna do?
I'm gonna erase that bam. I'm bam.
We go live. We are live on Four Corners.
You're supposed to be I'm supposed to be getting that that interlude music.
Yeah, I know. It's like let me do some beatbox. Okay,
you heard
it's time
it first.
for you to come in. It's time for you to come in.
One sec.
Okay, I have this question. I was in the band. I played clarinet.
Okay.
I don't remember a clarinet. I mean, I don't remember a flute being black. Flutes were always silver to me. What is the difference?
This is made out of wood. It's an African cherry wood or something like that. This is an American-made flute. It's made in Asheville, North Carolina, by Chris A. Bell. These are handmade.
Okay.
Wow.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So the material definitely affects the tone of the instrument. Okay. You know what I mean? So if this was plastic, it would sound one way. If it was gold, it would sound a little different. You know what I mean? Okay. Sometimes it could be subtle for the average person, but the wood, especially because this is a lot thicker than an average like silver or metal flute too. So the tone has a tendency to be a little warmer, a little darker.
Okay.
Yeah. So I take requests as long as I know the song.
Let's see.
Well, only play along with the song you're about to play.
Look at ABCs, the ABCs.
All right, hold on.
What you say? What you say? What you say? What you just Wow. Thank you, Damon.
All right.
That sounds great, man.
Dizzy. So before we leave, do you want to do your holla at yous, your shout outs, your thank yous, your congrats, anything you want to say?
Let's see. Hi, Monica. She probably out there. Was up to Maysa. We'll be in Vegas this weekend, playing at one of the jazz festivals out there. And what else? Because I don't like nobody, so I don't know.
Wait a minute. Yes, you do, because you about to produce some other stuff.
But in all seriousness though, and also I'll be what is that, June 1st? I'll be playing with Jill Scott for the Roots Picnic. I don't know. I think she's a headliner for that night, but I'm not sure. And what else? And then of course a bunch of other stuff with Maysa coming up, and I can't remember because once again putting somebody on the spot.
That's not what we do here. I don't know. Yeah. So yes, and speaking of Maysa, the song that I was going to play is the latest with "I Don't Mind," which is has your hands on it. So yeah, we thank you, Mark. Michael, y'all want to say anything before we leave?
No, thank you, Damon, for your time, sir.
I appreciate that. You see, the funny thing is, here she goes. She's gonna make me to play live flute, and I'm actually playing flute on that song, which Maysa kind of made me play flute on that.
Wow!
Really? So she made you. I made you.
Yeah, she kind of. Yeah, she kind of. Yep. You see, women always bullying me around, man. You know.
That sounds about right. That sounds about right with this one here.
All you have to do.
This one right here. Let me tell you. You have no idea, Damon. You have no idea. You have no idea. But at least you know what? One good thing was we know your flute solo wasn't sampled.
Yeah, man. Yep.
Everybody can't say that. Everybody can't say that.
Exactly. So we thank you again, you guys. Michael, who's the next guest for next month? I don't have my calendar.
Our next guest is an artist that was on The Voice. Phenomenal artist.
Yes.
From London, from the UK, named Stefan Mahadran.
Wow.
This guy here is phenomenal. You gotta wait till you hear him. That's all I can say. He's the truth. So we're looking forward to him coming. He'll be in LA next month. So he'll be our next guest. So tune in.
Yes. So you guys, please subscribe to Four Corners with Pepper Thomas. And also subscribe to the Hot Pepper Show TV. I do a podcast every Monday at 7:00. Matter of fact, I just had Gerald on last night, Gerald Veasley.
Yeah.
And he was like, Dizzy. I know Dizzy.
His eyes lit up.
Yeah, I know him.
So, let me tell you, and I'm sorry to cut you, but speaking of another one of those people that, like I said earlier, you're watching TV or whatever, and you're like, oh man, that dude is, and then you wind up meeting them, and so I've worked with Gerald, but he's definitely been a big inspiration to me since I've been in high school. You know what I mean? Like I heard one of his songs on TV and immediately wrote like 8 or 9 of it that sound just like it, but only a little different. You know what I mean? But yeah, and and I've told him this too, like some as a programmer, like, because some of what I do for example, is literally just me sitting at a computer working out all the parts. And so I try to get into the head of other musicians. So I'm like, so I literally would be like, well, if so and so was playing the drums, what would that, and then that's how I would kind of pattern the like the drum program and so on and so on. So listening and literally like going to shows and watching and listening to Gerald, like he's definitely one of those players that I'm like, yo, if Gerald was in here playing this bass line, what would it sound like? You know what I mean? Yeah, Gerald was definitely like a huge influence.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
Well, we thank you guys for joining us, and we will see you guys. It's the end of May. What's the date for Stefan? Stefan
is May 14th, I believe.
Okay, so yes, so May 14th. Stefan, if you follow Four Corners of Pepper Thomas, you will see when we are on, because we got some things going on, because we can't go nowhere but high, because we done had Dizzy on here. So hey,
that's right.
We got Dizzy on here. Oh man,
right. Man himself.
Dizzy was hard to get on. Dizzy was Dizzy.
And I didn't embarrass anybody this time.
Oh, you ain't gonna embarrass nobody, because I got my finger over here on this button. I will say remove. What happened to Dizzy? I don't know what happened to Dizzy. Dizzy was doing something, and I was like, I got to put him on here. I don't know about that. So, y'all, this is the latest that Mr. Dizzy had his hands in. This is I Don't Mind by Maysa. Check it out.
I've been thinking someday, one day, someday, one day. Time is wasted living in the past, and the world becomes this crazy endless maze. Out there on my own, I question everything. Suddenly I found myself wishing my days away. Take your time, but I don't mind. I love the way you are, so unconventional. You got here late, but I don't mind. I love the way you are, it's unconditional. I'm no longer thinking someday, wondering if one day, keep it moving fast. The future is so clear. Gone is the hate. Now I'm not alone. I'm living in the light. I finally realize the dream is here to stay. Take your time, but I don't mind. I love the way you are, so unconventional. You got here late, but I don't mind. I love the way you are, it's unconditional. You took your time, but I don't mind. You took your time, but baby, I don't mind. Time is wasted living in the past, and this world becomes a crazy endless maze. Out there on my own, I questioned everything. Suddenly I found myself wishing my days away. Ooh, yeah. You got here late, but I don't mind. I love the way you are, it's unconditional. You took your time, it's unconditional. But I don't mind, it's unconditional. You took your time, it's unconditional. But baby, I don't mind.
Okay, I know we're supposed to be going, but how do you do that?
Do what?
Do that. Of course, it doesn't sound like what I just did, but how do you do that? Is it all in?
Pretty much, yeah. It's like it's just rolling your tongue. So yeah.
It's almost like the Cardi. Okay, it's like the Cardi B of the flute. Okay, yeah. I can't do the Cardi B thing, and I sure can't do the
Oh, you're crazy.
Oh, that's a good one.
I don't know. The Cardi B of the flute. That's what you should get that. So, you guys, thank you again. We will see you on next month. Thank you, Damon.
Thank you, Damon.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good one, everybody.
All right. Take care now. God bless you.
Bless you.
If you want that inspirational, turn your radios. Sit back, relax, catch the vibe, have fun tonight on the Four Corner Show. You gotta sit back, relax, catch the vibe, have fun tonight on the Four Corner Show. If you want that grounding inspirational, then turn your radio to the Four Corner Show. Hot and spicy topics coming to the show, so let's get personal on the Four Corner Show. Relax, catch the vibe, have fun tonight on the Four Corner Show. You gotta sit back, relax, catch the vibe, have fun tonight on the Four Corner Show. If you want that inspirational, turn your radios